Welcome back. We are talking with Mark Harris today about crisis and the media, making them a friend or a foe. Mark, lots of great information there in the first segment. Thank you very much. You were talking about training. So I had a question about that. Training executives or middle management or whoever to speak with the media and how to respond to questions. Should there be another piece to that? Because I know we've seen some people who respond to media and they're sweating. You know, they've got different facial expressions. You know, they're saying one thing, but their face is saying something else. They're fidgety. How do you train for all of that? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of need a good balance of both to be able to verbally communicate and visually.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important that the individual concerned is comfortable with what they're going to be doing. So that, I think, is one of the first things that you need to ascertain probably even before you book the trainer and lay off the budget, because what you don't want is someone going in there and you're paying, perhaps for a consultant to come in and train your selected 5 individuals to be your spokesperson on various subjects, and then find that one of them is completely useless at it, which is not necessarily, a comment against what they do in their normal day-to-day job, but it is something that's not for them. And I think that is very, very important. You make sure you have the right people for the right thing. And we have that sort of throwaway remark here. You've got a great face for radio, so that's not a problem.
Are you talking about me?
It was said about me, but there we go. So make sure that you have the right people. They're up for it. They're volunteering for it, and they are in the right sort of level of seniority, and they're in the right sort of rough sort of area. So operations, quality assurance, etc., etc., etc. And then bring in professionals. It's not something that you can do yourself, I would suggest. You can continue doing some of the rehearsals yourself and do that and exercise people yourself, but it really does need a professional to come in. And that probably is someone who has been on the public relations side of life or the comms team side of life in a previous life, and also an ex-journalist. Or it may well be an existing journalist who is adding to their income by going out and about. And it is then through the training, through picking up on, do they a lot, do they a lot, that type of thing, through to, they use their hands too much, or they don't use their hands enough. Or they play with their change. People still have money these days. They play with their change in their pocket or their keys. So you've got to go through all of that and really try and bring them on, but not to such a degree that they just become an automaton, reading the message and then sort of, any questions, no thanks, bye, we'll see you tomorrow. So they've got to be approachable. They've got to be, using their face. One of the interesting tips I remember when I was actually helping a client, but we were going through an interpreter, was as, the question is being interpreted to you, you're nodding away. Well, does that mean you agree with that question, which says you've done nothing? Or actually, well, hold on a minute. No, I'm not agreeing with the fact that we've done nothing, because actually this is what we have done. Bang, bang, bang. So you've got to be quite careful about when you're nodding. Yes, you're nodding to say to the person, I understand what your question is, but you're not nodding to the accusation that you've done nothing. So it is those type of things that you've got to go through and make sure that you iron out and people are aware of it. And then, as I said, so 6 months ago, I had 3 days worth of media training. We went through scenarios. We went through pretty difficult interviews. We did a radio interview. We did a television interview. We did face-to-face interviews. So you're practicing all of that. But then again, it comes back to that point whereby I said, look, okay, that was 6 months ago, but now we've got an issue. This is the issue. This is what we know. This is what we're doing about it. These are the really tough questions. And then rehearse them in those before they go back out again and talk on your behalf.
You've got me thinking that that's a lot of the what the public or stakeholders, external parties are going to see. Is there a difference when you're in a crisis and how you communicate internally to your employees?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't necessarily a difference in message. And it's very important that your messaging is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may well be that you need to do some wordsmithing, because the message that I'm putting out now in a press conference to television and to journalists and to radio journalists, etc., is may well be a different sort of set of words that I might want to use on my website, that I might want to use in a printed, in a press statement. But the message has got to be consistent. And also it may well be going out on, you know, someone picks it up and puts it out on Twitter. How does it read on Twitter or, you know, Instagram and these platforms like that? So it is very important that you make sure you have consistency of message, but it may well be wordsmithed to make sure it's applicable to the platform that it's going out on from that point of view.
Yeah, I was wondering because I know when you're speaking with the media, sometimes employees, if they don't agree with what's happening or they know something, they can either be a big champion or they can be, you know, a really negative force.
Oh, indeed. No, I think it's very important. And one of the things that I always advise clients on is making sure that they have two policies understood and reviewed regularly by employees. Number one is what is our media policy? Who is allowed to speak to the media? What happens if you are contacted by the media? What you should say to the media? And then where do you pass that approach to? So, yeah, I was called by so-and-so because I'm on the sales team. They know something's up at the company. I can't comment on it because I'm a sales team manager. But what I can do is I can take the name of the individual, I can take what their questions are, and then I hand it on to my comms team, saying to the individual, yeah, no, I got your question, I've got your contact details, I'm now passing them to our comms team. Or it may well be that your policy is, as Mark Harris, the head of the sales team, I'm sorry, I can't answer those questions. The best person for you to contact is Miriam here on this telephone number and this email address. So that's one thing. That's one policy that they need to be reminded of on a regular basis. The second one is the social media policy. What is your company or your organization's social media policy? Who can say what about the company, etc.? Oh, well, you know, I wasn't really saying the company was bad. It's sorry, it's just how it came out. It's how it was read, you know, it's out of context. Well, that's not good enough, I'm afraid. So your internal communications needs to pick up right at the get-go again. And that is, right, this is what's taken place. This is what we know at the moment. And this is what we're going to do to fix it. Again, we would remind you of our media policy and our social media policy. Any questions, direct them to your team leader or your line manager. Does that?
Yep, that's perfect. That answered where it was going. Now let's look at the friend or foe aspect. What kind of things make the media our friend? But, you know, and I'm just going to leave that in general. It could be many things. What makes them their? How do we turn them into our foe?
Right. I think the first thing with regards to being their friend, I mean, what you need to do is make sure that they have the information that you know, so long as it's not something that is going to be completely disastrous if it gets out. But if there has been an incident, so perhaps, okay, so one of our tankers has rolled over on a freeway. Sadly, a car was involved and there have been some fatalities. So again, going back to the empathy, yes, we understand that this has taken place. It was one of our vehicles. We believe, or we understand, law enforcement have reported some fatalities. At this stage, we're gathering the facts, etc. But our thoughts are with those involved in this incident and their loved ones. So we are communicating with the media. We're not leaving them hanging. It's when, you know, they are trying to get information. So we spoke to Acme Petroleum, and Acme Petroleum didn't get back to us. We hear it a lot here in the United Kingdom at the moment. We tried to get a government minister to speak for us, but, you know, they haven't returned our calls. So automatically now, you know, we are moving from friend, if they were a friend towards us, to foe. Because it's this classic human thing. Well, if they're not talking to us, something strange is going on. Therefore, we need to start digging. Therefore, we need to get our researchers onto social media. What's going on in the Twitter sphere? What's going on here? And then start using that, because we're getting nothing from the impacted organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that is then when you're on the back foot, and you can never ever really regain that ground, and you'll start to lose trust, goodwill, and confidence in you as an organization.
I liked what you said. They start looking for something else if you're not going to be direct with them and give them information they need. How do you determine what information you should give them and what information you shouldn't give them? Because if there's information you don't give them, as you said, you could be creating them as a foe, but maybe there's information you can't divulge. So how do you manage that?
Well, I think it'll vary from what crisis you are responding to. So if I look back at things that I've advised clients on, if you have a member of staff kidnapped in Nigeria, you're going to really want to keep that really contained, both internally and externally. Mm-hmm. So if you get someone calling you up about, I understand that Bill Smith, your country manager in Nigeria, has been kidnapped whilst he was visiting a rig in Warwick. Okay, I understand you know that, but from the point of view of us being enabled to ensure the safety of Bill Smith, we would request that you don't report it because it could be prejudicial to the outcome. So it is along those lines. So you're looking, say, yes, right, we acknowledge something has happened. We're establishing the facts at the moment, but this really shouldn't be played out in the public domain. If we then come back to our tanker that's rolled over on the freeway, there is our logo on the side of that tanker, etc. So we can't start saying, well, it hasn't happened or something like that. So it does said it's dependent on that situation that confronts you at the time. Now, if someone comes to you and says, right, well, I know for a fact, because the highway patrol has just told me that your driver was drunk, then, well, okay, so we don't have that information at the moment. That is totally contrary to our working practices, and we will be following up with the Highway Patrol with regard to that. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. So that is something whereby, we are reacting to what has been out there. Now, if previously to that, someone said, well, that's Bill, and Bill's always been at the bottle. Well, number one, why was Bill at the bottle? Why was he driving a tanker, et cetera, et cetera? So you need to start fixing that right from the get-go. And if you did know about it, don't try and hide it from that point of view. Condemn it, totally contrary to our working practice, et cetera, and we will find out why this was able to take place. In the meantime, we're doing everything we possibly can do to make sure that those others involved in this are being looked after at the moment.
There's two words, and I really want to hear your response to this. When people, you still see it, when people are asked a question, they respond with two words: no comment. Does that make media a friend or a foe?
Well, it makes an idiot of the individual who says it. Firstly, you can't have no comment. It may well be that you don't know the answer to that question. But this idea of no comment, it's putting up a shutter. And one of the most important things is, as an organization, to maintain the intangible assets of trust, goodwill, confidence, which then lead on to your reputation and potential reputational damage. If you start obfuscating things and you're not transparent, then that will start to chip away at those intangible assets. So the idea that, no comment, it just doesn't work. So I'm sorry, I don't have that information at the moment. I will, speak to people in the organizations and I'll find out, and we'll get back to you with that information as soon as we know what has taken place. But in the meantime, this is what we are doing.
It's kind of as like no comment seems sometimes when I see it is no comment. Why? What are you hiding? And that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so.
On that, we've come to the end of our second segment. We are talking with Mark Harris today about crisis and the media, friend or foe, and we will be right back. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.